To begin by saluting, well, I want to begin by actually making a correction. And no offense meant. I am not from the National Trade Union Initiative, and I think that's very important when we talk about Kashmir. I'm from the New Trade Union Initiative. And I want to say this, when we were formed, there were words like All India, national thrown around. I come from a tradition that strongly believes that India is not a nation. India is a country that consists of many nations and many peoples. And, and that's why we gave ourselves the name. We're very proud to have a small membership from the Kashmir Valley. That's not why we are concerned about Kashmir. And I will. How long do I speak for? 10 minutes? 12 minutes? 15 minutes, okay. I do want to salute the Young Tamil Forum and the organizations that are connected with this for holding this meeting at a very important juncture in our country's history. I also want to note that apart from the host organizations, there are many leading voices of the left in Tamil Nadu. I want to note the presence of Comrade Tyagu. I may not read Tamil, but I know that he is one person who has played a very important role in reaching the words of Karl Marx to the Tamil peoples. I want to note the presence of Comrade Vidyasagar of the Communist Party of India, Marxist-Leninist Liberation, the presence of Comrade Sujata from the Pentolala Sangam and also the NTUI, and many others who comrades I may not know are present in this room. Perhaps people expect me to speak about what we saw in Kashmir. To me, that's not the issue. I think the key question is how we respond to the national question as the progressive movement in our country. And I think there's an important distinction that we need to understand, which I'm sure everybody in this room understands, but I do want to just emphasize that the difference between addressing the national question and nationalism itself. It's a question of locating the national question within and in the heart of the working class movement, and it's only then that we can stop it and prevent it from becoming vulgar, from becoming degenerate, from becoming xenophobic. And I think that is really where we need to look at this. And therefore, I think it's important for us to not blindly support every demand for territory, but to recognize whether it is and represents the motive force of the working class, and it's in their interest, not a demand based on a newer or a renewed form of division, but built on a genuine democratic urge, on a core democratic urge, not based on a competing question of identity. Many of us from very diverse organizations and political backgrounds went to Kashmir several months ago. We're not very proud of ourselves for having gone there. We felt we went too late. And we felt that although we were the first amongst the Indian progressives to go there in the present situation, we believe that we went there extremely late. But as I said, that we were diverse, a diverse group. Our group consisted of Dr. Uday Kumar, who's fought the Kudankulam fight. Our group consisted of Medha Patkar of the Narmada Bachao Andolan. Our group consisted of Kavita Krishnan of the All India Progressive Women's Association. And it consisted of me from the New Trade Union Initiative. There were 25 of us. There were many young men and women, some activists, some writers, some journalists. But I think the crux of what we have to say is not about what we saw on the ground or what we heard, but about the actually arguments and discussions we had within ourselves. I dare say that the one thing I'm proud of is that we have a report today which commits itself, and perhaps it has never happened before, that it's come from a group so diverse, that commits itself to people's right to self-determination. That's something I'm proud of. My friend and comrade Medha Patkar would not mind me saying she and I had many arguments on this issue. She disagreed strongly, but she was willing to move her position, to recognize what many of us in the group felt. And I think that's an achievement. What was the achievement of our group was we were able to go not just beyond the left, but to others who are not exactly from within an ideological left tradition, to come to an agreement and an understanding and a shared view and put out a report together in which we recognized collectively that people have the right to self-determination, and that the peoples of the Kashmir Valley without doubt have a right to self-determination, and that is what we as progressives need to stand up for. Our report talks about killing, our report talks about torture, our report talks about the cycle of search, seizure, illegal arrest. But I think there are some things which perhaps people will not focus on, which I want to take a minute to emphasize. Not just has all of this happened, but what has happened with it is it's been accompanied by a form of police, paramilitary and army action which has no parallel. After there's been a killing in a village, an indiscriminate killing of an innocent young boy in a village, when the funeral is taken out, the army goes out and shoots at the funeral. They don't stop there. When they returned from that village, they pumped bullets, and we saw those with our own eyes. There are hundreds of them. They pumped bullets into the electricity transformer. So this was to cause hurt. We killed your boy. We fired at you when you took out his funeral, and now we'll make sure you don't even have electricity. They went into people's homes. They not just broke their windows, they tore apart their refrigerators, they took apart their television sets, they broke the TV screen. This is what Indian forces. So what's happening today in the valley is different from the past. There's a vengeance, there's a vendetta that is being played out. But beyond that vengeance and vendetta, I actually don't fully agree that India wants to escalate the war. As I understand it, the BJP doesn't want to take it beyond the present level. And that is for the reasons I think we're all agreed upon. That the crux of why they don't want to take it further is because they recognize that they have been able to advance the idea that Kashmir is a problem because Kashmir consists of only Muslim people. And Muslim people come from Pakistan. All Muslim people are troublemakers. And purely in electoral numbers, that helps a consolidated Hindu vote of 20-25% within the electoral system. For the BJP, beyond 25% is a matter of political constellation, whether they can come to government or not. But their core vote comes and is defined by Hindu bigotry. And I think this is something we need to accept, this is something we must accept. And so today, Kashmir is at the point of a slow fire. The BJP wants to escalate no more because they don't want to fight to the finish. They want to keep it going this way so that they can then keep playing the point about what was it called? What strikes? Surgical strikes. It's about keeping the Pakistan and Islam question open 24/7 in this country so that they can play out their electoral energy and their electoral game to their advantage. They are not interested in a Kashmir solution one way or another. That is not in their interest, and they see it extremely well. I think we have a task, and I think this is, it's been said that we should be concerned about Kashmir and what the government of India is doing and Indian forces are doing, because they're acting in our name, because the government is acting in the name of India. I think we have to do it for more. I think we have to do it for more reasons than that. Kashmir symbolizes the highest attack on democracy in our country today. The highest attack on democracy by our government, by the Indian state. And if as the left movement and as the progressive movement, we do not stand up for Kashmir, if there is anybody who believes that we can have a democratic India while Kashmir burns, I think we have it wrong. We have to step into Kashmir. We have to defend the rights of Kashmiri peoples, because it is also a defense of our very own democratic rights. If the BJP is to succeed in keeping its slow fire burning up to 2019 and more, we are not going to be a more democratic society. We're unambiguously going to be a less democratic society. There was a reference to Republic TV. I belong to a small minority of people who has decided not to have a TV set. I have never had the fortune or misfortune of watching the gentleman who once went on something called Times Now and now on Republic TV, and I'd like to keep it that way. I don't think we as progressives will benefit anything by seeing him. We have to respond to them. But yes, there is an entire sort of machinery of government, of party politics, of the media, of craven media, that bows before this agenda, that caters to a market, so to speak, quote unquote market, whatever that market is, that watches this kind of thing. But I think we as part of the progressive movement, as part of the working class movement, are duty bound to stand up for Kashmir, because, I'll repeat, democratic rights of Kashmir are the democratic rights of all Indians, and whether Kashmiris want to be Indian or not is completely besides the point. There was a suggestion that we did a fact-finding report. Yes, there is a part of it which is in the form of a fact-finding report. But the idea was not to find facts. We all know the facts. You don't have to go to the Kashmir Valley to know facts. They're before us. You know them without having gone to Kashmir. You spoke very eloquently about it. But we had a meeting in Delhi, a very large number of us, including organizations from India, but also with Khurram and with the chair of the JK Civil Society Coalition, Parvez Imroz. And we were grappling with what is it that how do we address the Kashmir question? We all agreed that it's not easy to take this up beyond meeting halls. It is not easy today to build a movement on the Kashmir question. So what we decided was, a group of us would go, but we would go not so much as to write a report, but we'd really go more out of a sense of solidarity, to reach out, to also say that we do recognize we came very late, but with the hope, and this is really a start of that process. We had a public meeting in Delhi, in the center of town. Khurram was there a couple of weeks ago. What we hope to do, and the next 3 or 4 days is the start of that process. I know you had a meeting in Coimbatore. There is a meeting here today. There is a series of meetings over the next 2 days in Chennai. That it is typically Indians who go to Kashmir and come back and speak on behalf of Kashmir. That has been the history of our engagement with the Kashmir problem. The members of the Indian left, members of the Indian democratic rights organizations go to Kashmir and speak about the Kashmir question. Our plan was, and this is really must go beyond Khurram, and we've talked about this, is to bring ordinary Kashmiri citizens out across India to small towns, across states, and to have their voices heard. It's to hear Kashmiris say what they go through. It's to hear what Kashmiris say, what they're experiencing. And yes, we know that today we're in a climate where a meeting like this, if it was held in Delhi, would probably be attacked. If it was held in a town of UP, it will almost certainly be attacked. We will be dealing with police cases and not with Kashmir halfway through the meeting. We know that that is the situation. So when the suggestion came, let's begin in Madras, many of us agreed, yes, let's begin in Chennai. Let's begin in Chennai, let's begin in Tamil Nadu, let's begin in Kerala. We all agreed that this was the easier part of the country from the point of dealing with questions about people who want to decide what you and I will eat, what you and I will wear, and you and I will hold whose hand, and certainly not to talk about Kashmir. So I'm glad to be here, being part of this discussion. We hope to hold meetings in other cities and towns of this state, and really in as many states of the country as we can. Because coming from the trade union, you can't build a trade union in an undemocratic society. You cannot build a trade union in an undemocratic country. If there is no democracy, there will be no trade union, there will be no left, there will be no place for progressive ideas. And in a sense, Kashmir represents, and I think somewhere many of us have to go back into the history of the left. We've thought we'd advance left-wing ideas and we've evaded the Kashmir question. We have evaded the question of the Northeast. We have believed we can fight peasant struggles in what was once Telangana and now Telangana again. We could fight peasant struggles in Bengal and Bihar. We could build strong unions, and yes, we built strong unions. There are strong unions in this city. They will be at the meeting tomorrow evening. Unions I'm proud of, unions I'm proud to be associated with. But I think that begs the question, after we've been through the 20th century of communism, 20th century of progressive ideas, of communist organizations, of the trade union, that unless we address fundamental nuts and bolts political questions, we don't sidestep them, we don't put them away. Unless we do that, we will not be able to advance beyond where we are today. And I think that's at least where I see my organization standing at. I believe yours does that too. Many of you in this room I know are fighting a new fight, a fight which has been waiting for 25 years to come, to fight for the rights of information technology workers. That fight will not be won unless we also deal with the Kashmir question. It will not be done if we don't deal with the national question. I'm not saying we'll resolve the Kashmir question. I'm not saying we'll resolve the national question. But unless we deal with it in our organizations, unless we address it in our organizations, we will not be able to move forward. And I want to wind up finally by saying, when we said that we want to host these meetings wherever we exist and the other organizations who think like us exist across the country, it's really about people of India, it's Indian citizens, it's all progressives standing up and saying, we stand for certain basic rights of Kashmiri people. And I think in our document we've tried to isolate 6 of them, and I want to really say that when we stand up together, I think we must come to an agreement on what is it that we're seeking. It is not just enough for us to say that we support the right Azadi of Kashmir. This is not going to come overnight. This is a long fight, and as I said, it's not just about Kashmir, it's about other parts of the country too. The 6, I think the 6, of course, I think importantly is we support the right to self-determination of all people. That is a paramount democratic right. But with that, I think we have to build a movement that pressures the Indian state to recognize that Kashmir is a political dispute, and that political dispute cannot be resolved militarily or through police action, but can only be resolved through a open and public dialogue. Third, that the army must forthwith withdraw, the government must withdraw forthwith the army and the paramilitary from all civilian areas. Fourth, the government should repeal both the Public Safety Act, that's the Specific Act to Kashmir 1978, and the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Five, they must grant access to the UN High Commissioner for a Human Rights Investigation. And sixth, establish a judicial tribunal to examine all cases of extrajudicial killings, disappearances, and other forms of democratic rights abuse. I think this forms the core of what is being demanded, what is being said from the side of those standing up for democratic rights in the Kashmir Valley. I think this is where there could be a potential consensus amongst all of us. And when we say we stand for Kashmir, we should look for that common ground. And I'm sure that in the days ahead, we will find that common ground. Thank you.